Alright, welcome to this Photoshop tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about Clone Stamp Tool and the Spot Healing Tool. This is going to be a basic tutorial where I will give you guys some hint on when to use what and how to use them. So basically we have the Clone Stamp Tool here. Sorry, this one. And we have the Spot Healing Tool here. Now these are the two basics, so you don't have to enter the menu to go down and find the ones. I'm going to start with the Spot Healing Brush Tool, which is the easiest of these two to use. There are less steps, and you can use this fast and on the go. So what I do when I use these is I create a new layer. Let's call this Spot Healing. And with this we can I make sure it's sample all layers, so that I sample from the layers below, but I paste it into a new layer, so we keep it in a non-destructive way. The basic setting is content aware. Let's keep it here. And we have the brush size which we can increase with the brackets that we have for increase and decrease brackets brush size. Now what I can do here is I can just paint over areas I want to fix, like this. Let's zoom in here so we can see it again. So I'm just painting in over these areas that I want to fix, and the way that this tool works is that it's going to look at the surroundings and then it's going to fix it accordingly. So we can also just remove this, just make sure we get everything, and it almost does a perfect job. You can sometimes you have to do it over again and again down here. Let's just do this in one go. Now for these things that are isolated, like we have it down here, they're not close to anything that differentiate much from what they are on. You can use this brush easily, or this effect easily. But if you get close to, let's say for instance this one, if I were to use this tool on this area, we would probably get a pretty horrible result. So let's try it. Just painting it in. Yeah, as you can see, it doesn't know how to react close to edges, so it shifts it, as you can see here. And I could try to do it again, see if it fixes it. Sometimes it does, most of the time it doesn't. So instead, let's move on to our new tool. So in cases like this, I would recommend using the Clone Stamp tool. So call this Clone. New layer for each time. This way we can always step back and redo our things without having to erase everything we did. So this tool, we have some different settings we have to look at. In the sample area, it always, if you haven't used the tool before, haven't changed it starts a current layer. That means it samples from the layer it's on and pastes onto that layer. When we're doing a new blank layer, we want it to sample from current and below. That way it samples from everything below, pastes it into this new layer. We want to max out the flow and the opacity, and then I can also increase and decrease the brush size with the brackets. So what I do here is I sample, I hold down Alt to get this sample point, I click once, and then it shows me a preview of what it would look like if I were to paint. So if I sample here, move it out here, you can see how it looks if I were to paint. So what I do is I click here and then I tap it a bit, and you can see here if I start painting up here, it will paint back the part I was erasing. So I sample here, and you can see here I have to align it with this one, and like this, and then I can paint it. And the reason I started with the Spot Healing tool is because it's way faster. This tool you have to be a bit more find out which part to sample and be a bit more precise, whereas the other one practically does the work for you. So I have to align these, and now this area is a bit tricky because we have things that the details are there. We have different kinds of lighting on them. So let's see if we can try to minimize this a bit, and this would be the way to go around doing it. So as you can see here, I sampled too close to that line, so that didn't work. So I have to sample down here in order to get that. Now this takes some work in order to be perfect. And I did this to showcase you how the spot healing tool can fix this, and you have to use the clone tool. Now if I were to make this perfect, I would have to zoom in and be more meticulous with the details, have a smaller brush size, and then keep sampling, sample a new sample point each time. Sample here. As you can see here, there's the line we created is a bit crooked, so I would want to resample it. As you can see here, when I hold down the brush or the mouse button, there's a small X that you can see. It follows it, so we know that that's where we are sampling from, and it moves as you move. So that's a way to keep track of what you're doing. So if we zoom out, it looks pretty okay, and that is the basics of how to use these tools. You should be aware of if you lower the flow. For instance, if you want to make a fluid or gradient transition from one part to another, as you can see here, we might need to even this out a bit. I would also, each time I go to a different area that I'm not completely sure it's going to work or not, I create a new layer, so I don't have to let it affect my other layers. So as you can see here, I sample and paint it a bit with a not completely hard brush, and then redo this. And I can, in my current layer, I can lower the opacity, so we can add a bit of smoother transition here, and you can see here why I put this on a new separate layer, so I can lower the opacity of that, and it's not affecting this other part that we made. And that is the basics of how to use clone stamp tool and spot healing tool. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and if you want more of these videos, please like and subscribe. Thank you.